Hello, and welcome to my Diablo 2 Magic Finding Sorceress guide. I decided to make this guide in order to collect information that might help you improve your magic finding in Diablo 2. It's made for people who are either starting out from scratch, either on battle.net, or if you've come back to Diablo 2 on single player and you need to start from the beginning. This guide can help you get started collecting gear and runes quickly and efficiently. It's going to assume that you have a certain amount of knowledge about this game. So if you don't know a lot about Diablo 2, you might want to play it a little bit or read up on some other guides before you check this guide out, so you understand the concepts and terminology a little better. It is going to be talking about version 1.13 or later. So if you're playing on previous versions or classic, you might not be able to use all these strategies. We're going to be looking at this from softcore. So if you're playing hardcore, you're probably going to need to adapt a little bit or consider using a different class altogether. The Sorceress is not the sturdiest class in the game. I've divided this series into 3 videos, mainly because the video size and there's just so much information. I want to try to make sure I get it as accurate as possible. The first video is going to cover sections 1, 2, and 3 here. General magic find mechanics, explain how drops work in the game, talk a little bit about why we choose the Sorceress build, and then talk about some just general system and game setup tips to help improve your overall system speed, particularly when it comes to loading and saving games. The second video is going to cover the questing and leveling and also early magic finding. And then the final video is going to cover intermediate in-game strategies as well as some odds for finding certain pieces of gear. So if you want to check those out, just go to those videos instead, because this video is going to be concerned with the basic mechanical information of the game. So, the drop system in Diablo 2 is rather complex. I'm only going to give a general explanation of it. If you want more enhanced or specific explanations, I would recommend checking out certain facts online. You get into very deep detail in terms of the drop mechanics. Generally what happens when you kill a monster is that the game will first select a base item that will be dropped, and then it will select a quality of that base. Now, this process is actually pretty complicated, so I'll try to explain it as clearly as possible. Each item in the game is assigned a treasure class. The treasure class starts at 1 and it goes up to 87 in increments of 3. So the smallest treasure classes are generally things like caps, bucklers, quilted armor, and the highest one, things like berserker axes and sacred armors. Generally, the higher class you go, the rarer the item is. However, when you're playing in Hell, you'll notice that even the lower treasure classes are also very rare. Now, in terms of what monsters can drop, the monster's level is going to determine what kind of bases and quality that it can drop. A monster's level is generally tied to the area in which you kill the monster. Normal monsters have essentially the same level as the area and you kill them. So each area in the game is assigned a level from 1 to 85. There's the area at Summit's actually 87, but you don't get drops at that level. Generally progresses as you go through the game. However, once you get to Hell, you will see some area level 85s, even as early as Act 1. So normal monsters are assigned based on this. However, champions, uniques, and super uniques get a bonus to their level. So champions get a +2 bonus. Uniques and super uniques get a +3 bonus. Bosses are completely different. They have a preset level in Hell, and they don't actually even have treasure class tables assigned to them. We'll talk a little bit about them in a second. Now, the bases that a monster can drop is going to be determined by its relationship to it from its monster level to the closest treasure class that is either greater than or equal to the monster's level. So that kind of sounds complicated, What it means is that, for example, if a monster level is at level 85, it's going to clear the level 84 treasure class and get bumped up to the treasure class 87. So level 85 monsters can drop every base in the game. Does not mean they can drop every item in the game, however. Now, bosses, of course, don't have treasure class tables. Their treasure class is going to be assigned based on their area level. That'll come into play in a second here. Now, you cannot affect these drop rates for the treasure classes, the base drop rates, with Magic Find. So no matter how much Magic Find you stack, the TC87s are always going to be extremely rare, and as well as the TC1s and 4s. There's not much you can really do. The higher level area you play in the game, the more common higher level treasure classes become, but the highest you can go to is 85, so TC87 is always going to be very, very rare. Armor is also rarer than weapons generally. So the only thing you can do is try to kill monsters as fast as possible in these high area levels. Now, once the base has been selected, then your Magic Find is going to actually kick in, and Diablo is going to cycle from unique and roll random numbers, and once it hits, it will assign the unique, the item quality. Now, there's some factors that could limit the kinds of unique, the quality level for the item. So some items just don't have unique or set counterparts, and in those cases, Diablo is just going to skip them. However, there are rare cases where the quality level may not be met by the monster's level. So the quality level is not the same thing as the treasure class. Every unique and set item in the game also has a separate quality level, and if that quality level is not met by the monster's level, then it will not drop. So that's kind of complicated. Let's take a real example from the game. Pindleskin, which is one of the more commonly run targets in Magic Finding. His area level is 83, so that means his monster level is 86. Being 86, he is bumped up to the 87 treasure class, meaning Pindleskin can drop all bases in the game. But because he's only level 86, there are 3 unique items that he cannot drop because they are quality level 87, and he only has a monster level of 86. These 3 items are the Arachnid Mesh, which is a spiderweb sash, the Azarath Phase Blade, and Tyrael's Might armor. So you can get sacred armors, and you can get spiderweb sashes and phase blades from Pindleskin. You can even get the other unique counterparts. For example, lightsaber phase blades and the Templar's Might, but you can never get the other, more rarer versions because his monster level is too low. Mephisto, on the other hand, is different because Mephisto has a monster level of 87. However, he does not have treasure class tables assigned directly to him, so it's based on his area level. Unfortunately, his area level is only at 75, so he cannot drop a vast majority of the highest elite bases in the game. So he can only drop about 80 to 85% of the items in the game. However, he can drop the Arachnid Mesh and Azarath Phase Blade because his monster level is high enough and his treasure class is high enough to drop those bases. You put those two together between Pindleskin and Mephisto, and you can get every single item in the game except for Tyrael's Might. Now, if you want to get everything in the game, we're going to need to run level 85 areas and concentrate killing champion and unique packs. So level area 5 areas are going to be things like the Ancient Tunnels, the Pits 1 and 2, also the Mausoleum as well. Act 3, you've got the sewers and the temples. I think some of the temples aren't 85. You'll have to check that. There's the River of Flame and Chaos Sanctuary in Act 4, and then the World Stone levels in Act 5. So if you're killing uniques and champion packs in these areas, you'll have a chance to get all of the gear in the game. So why are we using a Blizzard Sorceress? Well, the Blizzard Sorceress is by far the most cost-efficient way to start collecting gear in this game, primarily because of teleport without you having Enigma. So if you're resetting on the ladder or starting from scratch, you're not going to have Enigma. It could be a while till you get it. So getting teleport will help you gather runes, gather gear, so you can change to other classes rather quickly. Usually in about 2 weeks, you can generally have a pretty good sorceress up and running, and you can be collecting gear at that point. It's very cost effective. The Blizzard skill is really, really strong. And when you pair it with Cold Mastery, it's going to pretty much destroy anything that's not cold immune. You don't need strong gear to do this. It's very gear independent. So even with very low budget gear, which I'll be showing in a later video, you can be running the magic find areas in the game rather quickly and efficiently. Another reason we like the Blizzard Sorceress is because a lot of our magic find targets are not cold immune. So Mephisto and Pendleskin, of course. The Ancient Tunnels, there are no native cold immune monsters in that area, so a Blizzard Sorceress can clear it out rather quickly. Also, the High Council generally can be run with a Blizzard Sorceress. You'll need better gear for that. Also Bale as well. So you're going to be able to run a lot of the high targeted areas in the game with this build. You get pretty good cast rate frame rates, so you're going to be able to move around rather quickly. The only cons I can think of are the frailty. You'll die a lot, particularly in the beginning, which is why I don't recommend playing hardcore. The other thing is that there are going to be cold immunes from time to time, and you're going to have your mercenary deal with him. And if he's not geared up well, that can also take some time. Now, in terms of your game system setup, you're going to want to try to make this as smooth as possible so that you're not lagging, so your runs don't go longer than they need to. I'm going to recommend that you don't overload your system. So if you know that you don't have a great amount of memory or RAM, you might need to cut back on some of the background tasks and programs while you're playing. So if you find that running the internet browser while you're playing slows you down a lot, you might have to just make a choice. Either you're going to lose some speed, or you might not be able to enjoy your runs as much. You're just going to have to see what your system can do. Also, just make sure you check your antivirus. Sometimes antivirus programs have game settings. You might also want to check and see which antivirus program works best for you in terms of that. I also find that Chrome as a browser works a little better than Firefox for me. Chrome seems to be a little lighter on system resources, so if you're feeling lagged down, maybe try using Chrome. Also, if you're on single player and you're using RuneWord mod, I would recommend disabling this mod when you're doing your actual runs and item farming. Of course, you're going to want to have it on when you're making some of your rune words if you're using the RuneWord mod. So be careful about that. Also, I recommend running Diablo in windowed mode with the no shell commands attached. This can help speed you up. It's not difficult to do. Just open up the property section from your shortcut, and then at the end you're just going to type /w /ns and hit OK. And this can also greatly increase your run times in terms of reducing the amount of lag you see when you're loading and saving games. I think I saved about 3 seconds per run just between these 3 commands. So highly recommended. If you feel like you're not hitting some of the targeted times stated in the later videos, then try making some of these changes. Also, the run counters that you can get might also slow you down as well, so just beware about that. Okay, so I think I've finished most of the content I wanted to talk about for this part. I'll be talking about starting from scratch in the next video, and we'll discuss how to get yourself to where you can start magic finding, and then the general strategies for the beginning of magic finding.